Ladies and gentlemen, of course, this is the Happy Hour podcast, fully fermented episode. Of course, I'm Ray. I'm going solo today, and I am being joined by a good friend of mine, a man who I appreciate more so than anything. If you see any of our stuff online, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok, right here on YouTube Live or our website, Derek Sharp, the owner of Curtain Jerker Designs, who does all of our weekly guest graphics, who does an amazing job. I'm blown away every single time, and his speed that he has getting everything back to us is immaculate. Derek, what the fuck is up, man? How you doing?
Oh shit, man, that's an intro. Like, folks, this guy's not only it's been a pleasure working with you guys. You guys have been able to mix it up. Like, most of my stuff is wrestling, so Googling some of your guests, open an eye or two. But yeah, no, man, I'm doing great. It has been, like I said, a fun time working with you guys. It always pushes me outside the box, and it's kind of funny you say speed, because I think that's one of the things I've known for. After 10 years, which really seems like 10 minutes sometimes, speed, everyone's got an agenda. Everyone needs to put their stuff out there, and I understand that fully. I get, you guys can't get paid if you don't have it when you need it, which means I can't get paid. So it works out, man. It works out.
Yeah, and I know you did work for EWA, which that was the company that I wrestled for many years. I'm in their Hall of Fame. 2019, I went in their Hall of Fame. You might have actually did that graphic work for the EWA Endgame. That's what
Yes.
it was, the Avengers theme stuff. So you actually did all that, and then let it be. We had a guy who did it, and he was a trainee in EWA. He just started getting into doing all kinds of that stuff, and he did a good job. But the thing was, is he I don't know if he was just very neurodivergent or what, but I would send him stuff, and I would send him 4 weeks worth of graphics. I'll be, hey, I need them by this date.
Yeah.
We would be approaching that date, and not one of them had been done. And I was like, I understand, but I can't, I need to get some of this stuff announced. Sometimes I do very far in advance, but then lately it's just kind of been like 2 weeks before. It's just been like, hey, I need this. And I've been announcing them closer. It's just the way it is with budgeting and all that. But still, it's like, I still like at least like a week, 2 weeks to get the guests announced so people can be like, oh man, and have time to prepare. But no, man, your quickness is great. And I mean, I saw your stuff online, and I remember reaching out to you, and I was like, hey, would you consider doing stuff for the podcast? This is what I currently use. And every season you kind of tweak it a little bit. First go around was that, then second season was that. And now, this season has, they all look similar, but they kind of, and then I can shoot you over themes. Like recently, the 26th anniversary of the NWO. I was like, let's do something fun with that. And you did something fun with that. Now, with the wrestling stuff and just everything you've done in general, have you ever had anything that you just sat there and you're like, well, fuck, this is going to take me forever to do? How am I supposed to do this? And I feel like you're going to say the Rumble pod graphic for some reason.
No, that was fun. It just, we communicated back and forth. Like, that has so many people on it that you have to understand, like, everyone's gonna be a little bit smaller to fit in. But once people understand that, and there have been some projects where I'm just like, shit, and I have to get up off the desk and walk around and just scratch my head, and it comes to me eventually. But no, I was doing the stuff for EWA, and I kind of lost track of those guys, but I remember doing some stuff for Endgame and whatnot. They kind of got a little sporadic towards the end of things. So I don't know if they're back at it, but
they're still running. But I mean, it's just weird because EWA has such a bad social media presence and I've been over this before, but I mean, I've been in and out of that company so many times, just over the years, and nothing changes. And it's like, you guys don't understand that, they don't, like, there's not a lot of like old featured stuff there. So like people like me and all that pretty much don't exist. And you're like, you got to build a history before you can have a future. But because everybody paves the wave or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I love those guys. My EWA Hall of Fame thing is right there on my mantle. But I don't know. But I mean, when you were doing the wrestling stuff, I was like, this will give him a fun little mix. Is there anything that we've sent you? Yes. that kind of blew you away, that you were like, oh man, I get to like do one for this person, or just any of your wrestling ones too, where you've been blown away by any of the work you've done for her?
Well, recently I haven't, now that I've gotten to this level, but it's funny that you say that the trainee was doing the stuff at first, because that's basically how I got into this.
Okay.
Um, I was a lifelong wrestling fan, as we all are, and because I was born a little later, there wasn't a opportunity to just get into a wrestling school.
Yeah.
Uh, that was a very guarded situation. I was born in '75, so by the time I started looking into like wanting to go to wrestling school and stuff like that, it was 93, 94, right before I graduated, and it was protected, man. You couldn't get in it to save your life. You had to know somebody who knew somebody who actually could even let you get near talking to somebody. And so I just put that aside. I didn't think it was ever going to happen. And at the time, I was living in San Antonio, Texas. I was trying to get in there. The Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy was
Oh,
a thing.
nice. Yeah.
But that's I was a fan. I've been a fan. I went to my first show at 3. My mom was a fan. She got us into it. And so that I started following my hoop dreams in high school. I was attempting to play basketball, horrible, but I was doing that, and I was kind of keeping a side eye on the big boom, the NWO stuff, everything with the Monday Night Wars. And after high school and some college, like it was around that time the internet started becoming the thing. So I worked for a couple of wrestling websites, news reports, and stuff like that, recaps. I ended up moving up to Indiana, and I fell in. Well, my brother passed away at 30 when I was 31,
Yeah.
and I kind of had that life shift. I'm like, what am I doing? Am I doing something that is making me happy? And the wrestling website stuff was fun. I got a couple of interviews out of it. It was not the biggest thing in the world, but it was keeping my interest. Um, when he passed away, I had that midlife crisis kind of thing, and I basically looked around and told my friends, "Fuck it, I'm going to wrestling school."
Nice.
And they're like, "Dude, you're 32. You're about to be 32.
Yeah.
You're also 5'8" and 140. We don't see you ever being a wrestler." But
Yeah.
I had it in my mind, so I found a school here that was just opening up, and I went through training. I got my ass kicked for months, and they saw that I wasn't quitting. At first they want to
Oh,
make
yeah.
me quit.
Yeah.
They want to take your money and just go with it. So they saw after a couple of months, like, you're not quitting. I mean, and it also got to the point where leapfrogs and you have just no drop kicks and all that shit. I never had the ups in the first place to jump. So that I think I drop kicked the guy in his shin one time. And so they looked at me, they got the backstory, they realized that I was not going to quit. And they were like, look, we need an official.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, okay, it's still wrestling. I was like, in my mind, I was like, it's an important part. People don't realize that. But so I kind of switched over, started doing some ref training and got that going. And when we had our first show, there was a local place here in town that does graphics. And, the guy's like, hey, come with me. We're going to pick up the flyers. And it was literally like a 8x10 piece of paper with 2 little square boxes,
Yeah.
some info, and they were like $65. And I looked at him, I was like, $65? He's like, yeah, dude. He's like, they're fucking me. And I'm like, I could do that. And he's like, you could do that? And I'm like, yeah. So from then on, I did that. I taught myself enough video editing to put together small packages.
Oh,
I
nice.
taught myself enough HTML. We had a website. That's when everybody had a MySpace, but we actually had a website. So we were, the next level up. They're like, oh, you're fancy. You've got a website.
Yeah.
So, I eventually taught myself enough stuff that kept me around the company. I refed from 2006 to about 2012.
Oh, shit.
I got close to 1,000 matches refed.
Nice.
My busy year, the second year, I did something like 700 matches in a month, in a year. Like,
congrats, dude. That's good shit.
I fell in with a group of guys that actually like to travel. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the guys that just want to do it that 1 month, 1 weekend a month. Local. You catch them at the store and they're working their retail job. But like, I taught myself enough of that and started doing it to where when the company closed down in 2012, I was like, I was already kind of working for other companies while we traveled.
So transition.
Yeah. So my envelope was a little fatter and everybody was like, why is yours? And I'm like, I'm doing the flyer. Like, like,
yeah,
it all works out. But so I just started staying home and, the
Yeah.
money I was spending on travel and stuff just was staying in. And, not to jump too far ahead, but like a lot of these other companies, you talk about time and speed.
Yeah.
Like, this is my 9 to 5. This is my shoot job.
I was gonna ask you if this was
This
your
is
shoot
it.
job, if this is what you do to make money. And unfortunately, with this podcast, I'm not at that level. Like, so kudos to you, man. Like this podcast is fun, but I'd be lying if I sat there and told you I've made $100 off this podcast because I haven't. But you know how it works. You need to
Yeah.
put money out to make money. But either way, at the end of the day, we're still, having on cool guests. We're still having a good time. It's still vibing. It's just nowadays it's so hard because with podcasts and stuff, it's so oversaturated with
It
stuff
is.
that trying to make yourself stand out is, real hard. And it's like that with pro wrestling too. You need to make sure you make yourself stand out. And so with that, so is it all mainly wrestling now? Of course, you have us. I know when we had Alana Evans on, she was blown away by the graphic that you did. She even commented on it. She's like, "Oh man, that's an awesome graphic." And you just recently did something. Was it a show or a convention that Mick Foley was on? I saw that online.
Yeah, we do. So right now, and to go back to what you said first, you're building a foundation.
Yeah,
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, what you guys are doing is making a difference. I mean, I'm sure when you see the view numbers and you see the counts and stuff like that, that's a visual representation of the hard work you guys are doing, and it's gonna get there. Like, I have total faith in you guys.
I appreciate that.
You guys are just one interview away, one
Yeah.
story away from things blowing up. So right now, currently, we have 13 monthly clients.
Wow. Okay.
Now, one of them is a comic book store in the New York, New Jersey area called Heroes Hideout. And I love those guys, and I have to, tip my hat to them. They kept me alive during the pandemic when all the shit hit and all my shows canceled.
Yeah.
They had 4 locations, and those stores stayed open in the malls. It
Good
was,
shit.
and that monthly payment came in and it saved my ass. I would not be anywhere where I'm at right now. Living situation, all that stuff. And the guy was super cool.
Yeah.
When the first month he was like, "Do you need me to front you some money ahead of time to stay?" And I'm like, "Look, I'm an introvert. I don't spend a lot of money on things, but so I'm not blowing it on. I blow it on the stuff we blow it on. But so that really saved me. But I've got his 4 locations is not counting the 13. So
Wow.
like
Wow.
the show that you're talking about last week, Freelance Wrestling in Chicago has Freelance and then Freelance Underground, 2 different companies under the same umbrella. They had Foley. He was fresh off of CTV2 in Chicago.
Okay.
And he came that night. And like I said, man, I've been fortunate to work with through the comic book guy, through Heroes Hideout before the pandemic hit, he had a really close working relationship with WWE.
Yeah.
They would come in and do in-store signings. So a part of their deal is when they have the in-store signings, sometimes as a fan you go in and you don't have anything to sign, but you want to meet somebody.
Oh yeah.
So most times he'd have me make design an 8x10 to keep on the table. So if someone doesn't have anything, they will offer them a free 8x10. So I've gotten to create 8x10s for like Matt Riddle and Roman Reigns and Alexa Bliss and a number of superstars that Bray Wyatt and guys that come in the store to get signed. Because he's like, I don't want, you as a fan coming in and being so excited that you're meeting somebody and not necessarily having something to get signed.
Yeah.
They, offer you, here's a free 8x10, get it signed. It's on them. It's a nice thing to do. And, they really don't want to do the WWE standard, 8x10s. And
Yeah.
so something cool and creative comes up and I do those and I feel a part of it. I'm forwarded in the emails because this is all stuff WWE's got to approve.
Oh yeah.
So, that's kind of a way of getting out there.
That's cool. That's cool. And I know I haven't like pulled the trigger on it yet, but I know I talked to you about designing a business card too. So do you do business cards and all that as well?
I do the normal stuff, the things that keep me separate from everything else is the wrestling stuff. When I first got into it, the first, and you talk about not making any money. The first 2 years, I didn't make anything. The first 2 years, I literally, besides the companies I worked for and the wrestling stuff, I would literally spend 8 hours on Twitter and search. And I would search who needs graphics, and I would go and just offer free. And some of that's turned into paid relationships.
Yeah.
There was a company I worked for in the UK for a couple of years that came off of that. The guy was like, "Look, my designer got in a car wreck. Shows tomorrow. We need a DVD cover."
Yeah.
and I stayed up all night and got it done. And that was a freebie. And, it's like the first taste. And after
Oh,
that,
trust me, I know because I come to you all the time. I'm like, hey, I need an emergency graphic, or hey, I need this tweaked. And man, like literally instantly, you're like, boom,
on it,
done,
on
and
it.
that's it. And it's like, it's so, being able, especially in like a media type thing, and I was just used to pro wrestling, and
Yeah.
when I started doing the podcast, of course, that's fully fermented. This isn't live, but the weekly, episode, every week podcast is live because that's what I'm used to. I still to this day don't know how to do a podcast. I'm like, I get on and I talk to people because I'm like, I've always been good with talking to people. I've always, I need something to entertain. But I mean, it's weird, that whole, element of how things go down. But what I want to do is I do want to show off some of your stuff. So
Ah.
what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share a screen. And this right here, like, so basically everybody's seeing on my screen what your website. Basically, your website looks like, curtainjerkerdesigns.com. Of course, you have at the bottom, stay humble. And these are some of the wrestling flyers that you've done, which are,
Yeah, and I need to update some of that stuff, but they're some of my favorite ones over the years, and some of the ones that mean
of
a
course,
lot to
DVD
me.
artwork right here. So you do, all kinds of, DVD artwork and, all kinds of, fun stuff. And then, of course, you have that. And then, of course, you flip over and you have the stuff that you've done for us. So all kinds of different. So, if anybody out there that's not associated with wrestling and you want kind of a little bit of an idea of what some of the stuff would look like. And of course, some of the stuff, like, of course, Pride Month, I ask, hey, little Pride logo, or,
Yeah,
anniversary thing, you go with that. One's one of my favorite ones, the one that has the military look towards it and the whatever. And I mean, and you can just see right here, this is just from when you click on our site, where to find episodes, because as you said, you had a website, and that's what I did. I created a website because our podcast, with it just being called the Happy Hour Podcast, it's so hard to find. So I always just tell everybody, just go right directly to the website. That's the easiest thing to do. But yeah, I mean, dude, you've done so many of these for us that like everything just stands out and pops so well, so crisp. Like, the logos are on there and everything that needs to be on there, and it's just solid and crisp. And that's another one that I had too, was the Scott Page one from Pink Floyd, Toto,
yeah,
Supertramp, and even the Christmas ones, you did a great job with that. Gifts in the background, the Mr. Skin one was really fun. And that's another one I did, the Survivor Series 93 themed that I sent over. And then the Halloween ones, which were super fun. So hopefully we can do some super fun Halloween ones again, this year and all that. So, but yeah, I mean, man, and that's the one Alana Evans was talking about
yeah.
right there, was this one here. But
And I actually, I after that I DM'd her and was like, hey, if you do need anything, like, feel
yeah,
free. And I do that all the time as well.
oh,
It's like, hey, like sometimes you don't think about it when you see something, then you're like, hey, like maybe he could help me out. And going back to what you said with the designs, like I love the fact that you'll throw me the idea and you'd be like, hey, work your magic. Like,
yeah, I
and
mean,
that's
that's the thing. This, man. I have never, from an artistic point of view, I've never gotten any of that shit. I've never
yeah,
known
yeah,
how to use.
yeah,
I self-taught myself how to use all the audio stuff. I self-taught myself how to do all the video stuff, the Zoom stuff. I'm smart with that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But when it comes to artistic type stuff like drawing, you're
yeah.
getting a stick figure. That's it. Like,
Well, that's the funny thing too. I can't draw worth the shit.
yeah.
So like I'll have people from time to time, and there are some shirt designs I've done, mostly the text versions of stuff. But there'll be some people to be like, "Hey, can you draw this?" And I'm like, "Or can you do this shirt idea?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then they go something like, "Draw me as a zombie," and I'm like, "No." I'm like, that's it. And I'm the first person to stay in my lane. I know people who do artwork like that, and I will send them that way, or I'll message them, be like, "Hey, get up with this dude," or video stuff. Like I taught myself enough videos and just enough to do a little bit, but full on commercials and stuff like that. Like I have a guy, I'll send him that way, and people appreciate it, man. People appreciate it. There's enough for everyone to eat, man. Honestly, there's not, and I try not to see who else is doing flyers and stuff like that. I don't keep up with my competitors or that
Yeah.
kind of
I
thing.
mean,
But
that's the thing, man. Like, I'm not one of those guys. I don't like, that's not,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you're my guy. Like, that's the thing. Like, once the one guy wasn't doing his thing, I reached out to you, and I'm one of those guys that I'm like, all right, we formed a relationship, we have a bond.
yeah.
what's the sense of going and finding something else? Like, I'm satisfied with what you do. And that's what's cool. And that's what you were talking about earlier with like the relationships that you form with it and all that. Like, I have PR reps. So it's the kind of thing that if anybody ever comes to me and goes, hey, I need this done, it's always like, hey, I can always shoot you over the derrick,
Yeah.
and it's just a whole thing of, being able to do that. But is there any like anything, like, of course you do a lot of wrestling, you do our stuff. Is there anything like off your mind that you would love to do like artwork for, that you haven't been able to, that you're like, man, if I could get my foot in the door, do some artwork for that person or that company, that would be amazing?
More cons.
Okay.
Like I've seen they always need con banners. I'm working with a guy now that does bring in guests from time to time. I just got through doing two for HorrorCon. He's bringing in Kevin Nash and Xbox
Nice.
Waltman. So I just did the two con banners for him. More con stuff, just because I know it's a schedule that is once a year or twice a year, stuff like that. I've done some wrestling related cons through the comic book guy. He does a Superstars of Legends kind of deal where he's gotten some pretty big guests.
Yeah.
They've got one coming up in October. It's got Paige and some other bigger names. So
Nice.
working with him through that, but probably cons. I mean, it's comic book stuff like that. It's nothing too far fetched. Wrestling's in the same genre, so it's not
Yeah.
not that the fans are kind of the same. But not really. Honestly, right now I'm pretty happy with the lineup I've got. The freelance guys, I saw a memory on Facebook was 8 years ago, and I was still doing their stuff.
Holy shit.
Yeah, some of the Lucha guys, the Lucha company I work for in Chicago, 7 or 8 years. So I'm really, it's that relationship. And it's also a funny thing that you mentioned, that referral is a big thing and stuff like that, because I worked for a company. I'm not going to mention any names, and I love the guys. And they sent me a message one time, and they were like, "Hey, like, don't get mad. You're going to see a flyer posted. We went with someone else this time, a friend of ours who wants to give it a try."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I was like, "Who's the friend?" And it was at the time another competitor flyer guy, and
Yeah.
he mentioned who it was, and I'm like, "Oh, great." I'm like, I hope you get it on time.
Yeah.
And he does really good work. And he does really good work. And I hope you get it on time. And if you need anything from me, let me know. And he was thrown off. He was like, You don't mean that. I'm like, no, like, he's a great guy. He really does good work.
Yeah.
I'm
Why
like, he's got
why
it.
why why would you say anything bad? Because that's the kind of thing, when that dude fucks up, they're gonna just be like, "Oh, no, we can, we can Derek,"
Yeah. And I just said, because I heard through the grapevine that he had issues getting stuff to people.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, if he doesn't get it to you, just hit me back up. And the guy he was just like, no, you don't mean that. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, it's cool. Like, we're not, nobody's in contracts. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, we didn't sign a contract to be like, you have to stay with me for 6 months and, that kind of thing. So if you want to go next month,
Oh, yeah.
and use somebody else, that's cool. Like, I'm not going to get mad. I understand. I understand. And also, because like, I went through the part with the reffing, and I got to a part where I did ring announcing. I
Yeah.
also booked talent. I did everything there was to do. I had a match. My trainer was like, "You trained enough. We have to beat." So he wrestled me under a mask,
Yeah.
just so it was safe, and I knew what it was about. But because I have that background, like, I know how much it costs to put a show together.
Oh, yeah. What's up?
So, like, my rates are in that frame.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to be like, well, this is $25 an hour for a regular job. So, like,
Yeah.
when I do stuff like business cards and logos, which I don't do all that many of,
Yeah.
it's not my thing. People always, they'll get up with me for a business card, and they'll be like, hey, like, I need this now. And because the wrestling brain in me goes, now, he needs it like in an hour. And they're like, is 2 weeks good? And I'm like, 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, that's plenty of time. I'll knock it out the day before. Like,
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, sometimes I'll send you stuff and you'll have it back to me the next day, and I'm like, Jesus, like, this dude got moving. And I'm gonna let you go in a little bit, because we're gonna run over a little bit. I want to try to keep the interview at probably about like 30 minutes or so.
okay.
But one thing I always looked at, and I always believed this with independent wrestling, and I carried it on with my podcast, and I've seen so much of it, is that a flyer can make or break your entire show. And that's the bottom line. If you
It
sit
is.
there and you hand out a flyer and it doesn't look like it's a wrestling show, or there's not guys on it who look like wrestlers, or it doesn't look good, or it doesn't look professional, like, people aren't going to take it as professional. And that's how I look at it with, this podcast as well. And that's why I'm blown away by all your work, because I get so many people that go, oh man, and people are excited to be on our show because they're like, oh man, this looks like, meanwhile, other podcasts will just have like just a synopsis. That's it. Like, this is who our guest is, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it doesn't matter who our guest is. It could be someone no one's ever heard of before. We will find pictures of that person, get them on a flyer, and it will look amazing. And that person will look like $1 million. And that's the way it needs to be. And you deliver that each and every time. So I cannot credit you for that. It's great.
And that's another thing, going back to the days of reffing. I was on a show in Ohio with Demolition Axe, and we literally got paid to turn around and go home because there was no one there.
Wow.
We showed up at the show an hour before the doors were supposed to open. He was sitting in the back. The guy was like, we've sold 10 tickets.
Oh.
He's like, and it was me and my car ride full of guys. So he was like, can I just pay you guys half now and you guys can just turn around? And my trainer guy was like, I want to get Ohio off the list. So we're staying. Because he had that list of like, we wanted to wrestle in every state. So and then afterwards the promoter tried to pay us with wrestling figures, which at the time I was a fan still, so I was gonna take it, but I'm like, you can't put this in the gas tank, man. I can't.
Trust me, man. I did so many shows where I didn't get paid at all, or got paid very little, and I look back and I regret it all the time. And I'm like, I should have valued myself more, but myself and my tag partner Blood, we were more so for doing a show and then going and drinking at a strip club for hours afterwards. So that was our jam.
Yeah, and see, that's where I stepped in and said, hey, like, I do flyers, let me help you guys out. Like, it sucks to have my friends, because it's myself and my friends now working the show where there's nobody at. And it's not that they're not going to give the effort they need to, but it helps when there's fans. And that's basically, it's my bottom line. I just want my friends that I've made in this business to have people to perform and do their craft in front of.
Oh yeah, and I hear you. I've worked in front of 5 fans and a dog. So, that's just, that's a quote that we had on one of the podcast episode earlier on, was 5 fans and a dog.
And 2 of those guys came with one of the guys that wrestled. So it's really just
so it's
repaid.
Like or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or no paid at all. It's just people that are just standing there. And me and Blood, who happen to work each other, we're like, all right, we're going to be the first match. The promoter's like, well, we're like, we're going out first because we're going to go work. Now we're going to go to the strip club. Like now, Derek, anyways, man, I appreciate you coming on. Of course, this is the HHPods Fully Fermented. Look out for it every month. Look out for the amazing artwork that's done by Derek Sharp from Curtain Jerker Designs. And Derek, where can everybody find you, find your work? If they need anything done, how can they reach out to you?
So I am actually Curtain Jerker Designs on Instagram and Facebook. The Twitter is Curjer Designs, CURJER Designs. And the website, curtainjerkerdesigns.com. I'm here to help you guys out. I do it. It's a great relationship I've got here with Ray and the guys. Enjoy the show. And thank you for checking us out.
All right, cool. What we're going to go ahead and get on out of here with Derek. And of course, we're going to still keep on hanging out here on Fully Fermented. We're going to show some of our vintage content. So make sure you look at that. That's going to come up right after this interview. And this is Ray. We will see you guys next time on the Happy Hour podcast and the HHPods Fully Fermented.
What's up, everybody? This is Corey from Carved Stone, and you're watching the Happy Hour podcast. Rock on.
In a world full of hunger and thirst, one restaurant will attempt to satisfy these cravings forever. Meet our hero, the cheeseburger, and his salty partner, crab dip tater tots. Together, with local craft beer, they take the fight to hunger. With a special appearance by Cupcake Milkshake, they... Vagabond Sandwich Company. Better making food than making commercials.
Margaritas.
These are meant for apparently 4 people.
Want to take
By
a
the
drink?
4 straws.
Strong.
Very.
Dude, as I watch that, I slowly die a little bit more and more. You can chug mine like that too if you want. Yes. Come on, blood. You're watching Happy Hour TV.
I feel like very tired. It's alive! Ray dropped the camera because he's drunk. Now he's gonna chug it. Finish it off, Ray. Finish it. You retarded mother. I'll kill you. What's the matter? Don't you like clowns? Go. Oh, I'm so. Look at that. I'm. You chug that, you fat retard. Oh, don't dribble. Don't dribble.
What?
Ray's gonna finish. Ray's gonna try to finish his margarita. Chug it, Ray. Chug it. Drink, you retarded mother. Finish it. Finish the hubcap. Finish it. It's almost there. It's almost done, Ray. And empty. How do you feel, Ray?
Well drunk.
Are you proud of your accomplishment? He is.
Yep.
That's a proud man. That's a proud drunk man.
You and your lemon lime. You and your lemon lime. I will drink you, and I will celebrate like a mother.
I'm gonna finish my margarita. You can't stop me, mother. You. You think the hubcap margarita can defeat blood?
I already finished mine. It didn't defeat Chase Rowling. Good. Done. Look, where are we at?
We're Phil's Point.
Look, I have a confession to make. I did dump some of mine out.
You I knew you
It was into yours.
Oh, I knew you
It was totally into your hubcap.
Oh, you mother.
All right. That right there is vodka and pineapples. However, it looks like a container of sponges. I'm going to take a shot of the container of sponges.
You gonna take a shot of that? It's a weird drink. That's what tonight's all about. Drink it. It's a shot. How was that? Was that fantabulous? That was good? That was good? It was fantastic, right? This is Blood's critique of the beer. This is Fruelli. Fruelli strawberry beer. I don't like free, but this is good. It's like a strawberry daiquiri, but only it's a beer. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic beer. I'm gonna chug it now. Watch this.
Hello, my name is Bubba Almany. I am a bodyguard who has been in the security industry for over a decade. My team and I offer a variety of security services that cover all aspects of security operations. We have secured some of the highest profile clients and largest events in the world. Should your situation require armed protection, we have the ability to carry in all 50 states and U.S. territories. Not only do we have the latest security equipment, we also have world-class training. We look forward to assisting all of your security needs by bringing you the finest and most dedicated security personnel available. From the Office of the President of the United States to local county and state dignitaries, my tactical dignitary protection officers are the tip of the spear in this extremely competitive industry. Let my highly trained staff protect the asset today. We can be contacted via the email and number below. Thank you.
Hi, this is Shelby Paris, and you're watching the Happy Hour podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Happy Hour podcast, fully fermented. This is Ray. I'm coming back. Of course, you saw us last time. We were talking to Derek from Curtain Jerker Designs, and I'm being joined by a good friend of mine, which is Craig Blume. Craig sells solar panels through Powur. And yeah, Craig, I myself don't really know a lot about solar or solar panels or how all of that works? What exactly goes into that? Like, what exactly happens to your house when you have solar powers put in? Like, I always feel like that the sun's just going to come right through like a magnifying glass and just bake me alive. Like, I have no idea how they work or how they operate.
That's a great question, Ray. It's actually, and I appreciate you, very much bringing me on board today, because quite honestly, I think a lot of folks really don't understand, right? And it's a pretty simple equation. And so I like to say, basically, we're converting an expense into an asset.
Okay.
Right. So an expense. Why? Because when are you ever going to pay your utility bill off? Ever?
Never.
You never pay you never pay it off, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I get, I guess, some a question. Well, gee, Craig, I mean, how long's the loan and this type of thing, but you never pay your utility bill off. So it's a pretty simple equation. I mean, here's how it works. So typically what we do is we ask the homeowner for a copy of the utility bill. In Maryland, the second page, Maryland, one of the major suppliers is BG&E. So the second page of your BG&E utility bill typically gives you an annual usage, the last 13 months of what you've used. So we take the last 12 months, we calculate what your usage has been, and we put a system on top of the roof to offset 100% of that.
Okay.
So pretty simple, right? So the and unfortunately, I get some folks that come to the table and go, Craig, I'm really, really interested in solar, and so can you run a proposal for my home? And so the unfortunate thing sometimes, Ray, is that we can't move the home to position it perfectly to meet the sun, right?
Yeah.
So that's the challenge. And then sometimes there's trees, that are covering the roof and that type of thing. So initially we're sort of looking for the low hanging fruit. But here's some stats for you. There's 140 million homes in America.
Okay.
90 million of the 140 qualify for solar.
Okay.
There's only 3.5 million homes with solar right now.
Yeah.
So it's a virtually untapped marketplace. 87.5 million homes are ready for solar. I don't know if you've noticed, but when I drive around to the neighborhoods, I see more and more and more going up. So
yeah,
Maryland,
they're all over the place. Like there's
right?
some houses that literally their entire roofs look like solar panels,
That's
and
right.
it's insane. One of my good friends, he actually had solar, and he said that BGE actually sent him money or whatever, like sent him a check for how much
right.
he saved in
exactly right.
Solar.
So what you're referring to is the net 1-to-1 metering in Maryland. So there's, Powur, by the way, we formed a platform. So what's really unique about our company is that I'm not like a Chevrolet. I can only sell a Chevy, can only sell a Ford. I've got access to all the national brands of anyone in the solar industry today. So when I put together a solution for a homeowner, I'm putting together a Cadillac system. I'm pulling from. I'm not tied to any particular brands. I choose the best ones to meet their needs, and that type of thing. So back to that that equation. 90 million qualify for solar. At a force, let me back up. Powur Energy is in 21 states right now as the general contractor. We just launched in Maryland April the 1st.
Okay.
That's sort of why I personally have gotten started, right? So, we're able to help customers in the 22 states where we are right now. And I can share those states with your readership and they'll have an understanding of that. But so in Maryland, what they do is when you purchase a system and it goes up on the roof, you're given right now, the law gives a 26% federal tax credit.
Okay.
Next year, it was going to drop to 22%. But I don't know if you've known that, I guess just came through the House just a couple of weeks ago. There was a new bill that was passed, the Clean Energy bill, if you will. It has not been signed by the president yet. But what that's doing, Ray, is it's going to take that 26% federal tax credit and bump it up to 30%.
Really?
For the next 12 years.
Wow.
12 years. So we had some uncertainty there. Now we've got 12 years ironed out. So here's how this works too. There's a common fallacy that folks go, well, I'm going to get a solar system on my roof and I'm going to get a tax credit back directly for that, right? Well, you put the solar system on your roof the same year that you put that system on the roof, or if it's a freestanding ground mount system, all different ways. Forgive me for just saying roofs, because there's multiple ways to install solar.
So there's other ones that you can, like, I've only ever seen the ones on the roof. I didn't know you could do them aside from being on the roof too. Exactly.
So there's ground mounts.
Okay.
So if so that that's the the solution if your roof isn't quite pitched in the right direction.
Okay.
If you have enough property, we can put a solar system in a ground mount and get it pitched perfectly.
Okay.
Right. And so that's kind of the thing. So, gosh, I'm all over the place with this conversation. I hope your readers.
No, you're fine. The nature of our regular show is it train wrecks very quick, and we go all over the place all the time. Now,
right?
If someone were to get solar, and let's say, okay, I'm like, hey, Craig, I want to do this. I'm going to get some solar panels. What's normally the turnaround from that? Is it like the kind of thing where I'm like, hey, I want the solar panels, and the next thing I know, I'm right next to Martin Airport. There's a plane flying over, and they're just airdropping those bitches like onto my roof. Like, what's normally the turnaround for that?
So typically, here's how it works, right? The homeowner shares their utility bill with us. We develop what the size system they need to offset. Now, what's kind of neat about Maryland, Ray, is they'll allow you to offset up to 200%. Okay. Some of the states don't allow you to do that. So Maryland's really playing nicely.
Yeah.
So you get your utility bill. We see what the usage is. We put a system on the roof to do it. So I have a pretty sophisticated software. We use Google Maps, if you will. We take a picture of the customer's roof. We build a system right on their roof so they'll know precisely what it's going to look like. We'll tell you how much each panel is going to produce based on the direction that it's facing the sun, how much production it's going to get, how much light energy it's going to have. And then so we present that to the customer. So if the customer is interested in moving forward, we are the general contractor. We will control it from A to Z. So they can use me as their point of contact through the entire thing. And then so typically the average time from start to finish, to answer your question eventually here, Ray, 43 days.
Okay.
43 days from the time that you say go to the time it actually comes to fruition. Now, sometimes that might be longer than that because, quite honestly, the permitting is really what the biggest drawback is sometimes, where we submit the bills and the permits and we're waiting really for the county, for the government to get back to us to give us the green light to proceed. So once that happens, we're putting a system on the roof. Kind of an interesting thing, I guess, that's starting to come on board now is the battery backup system. Folks are saying, gee, hey, Craig, I'm really interested in the solar system because when we lose power, I want to keep my lights on. I want to keep my energy.
A sump pump needs to keep running. That's what I'm always. And thankfully, knock on wood, we live where we barely ever lose power. Like literally, our power will go for 5 seconds and then come back on. This house, I don't think I ever remember. I think in the 7 years we live here, I think we've been without power for multiple hours, and that's only because BGE was doing work and they had to shut it down for a little bit, but it never got knocked out. But that's always still something that lingers in my mind is if that goes out, my basement's just completely just gone. It's going to be like Waterworld. Like Mel Gibson is going to be just, no, it wasn't Mel Gibson. What was it? Kevin Costner?
Kevin Costner, brother. That's right.
Kevin Costner in Waterworld. Like that's completely.
Yeah, with the little things by his ears.
Yeah. But no, and I mean, you've been doing it for a little bit now.
Yep.
So like, have you had any experiences where someone was like, hey, Craig, I want to do solar. Can you come, look my place over, and you get there and like, they don't have a roof or something like that. And you're like, brother, I'm sorry. Like, I don't like, what is there for solar? Like you live off the grid and you don't have like a roof. Like, have you ran into like any like weird stuff like that? And I mean, I know like it's the kind of thing, and we've known each other for a long time. And, Craig, he also, he teaches kids karate, and, I could see Craig ninja kicking a guy, for doing something like that. But, have you had any experiences like that where you were just kind of like, I don't know, man, you have way too many high powered sex toys. I don't think this is going to help you.
So I think of anything crazy, Ray, but I think it's disappointing. I mean, because folks, when they say, Craig, I want solar, and then I run the proposals for them, and we're not offsetting, as much as I would like to for them.
Yeah.
It's basically it's because their home isn't pitched in the right direction. And what that means is if your roof is facing a southerly direction, if it faces south, that's going to produce the most power.
Okay.
Then it's west, then it's east, then it's north.
Okay.
So a lot of times if the house, like they're pitched north to south, and I can put panels on east to west of their roof, we can more or less maximize their production that way.
Now, how do you tell that normally?
So we'll get a picture of the roof off of Google, and so when we put that in our software, it'll tell us precisely how it's pitched, which direction it's going. And if we can't get enough panels on the roof, then sometimes we can't offset enough. Now,
Okay.
I personally like to offset a minimally 100%. Although if folks are still offsetting 50%, it's still 50% less than they have to ante up on over the years.
Yeah.
Because here's what happens, Ray. You put solar on your roof, you convert an expense into an asset. You'll basically will lock in a rate, and that rate will stay indefinitely for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So it'll never go up. I mean, can you imagine if we could have locked in gasoline prices 10, 15 years ago?
Now,
right?
with
Same
stuff
thing.
like that, let's say they sell their house. Like, how does that work at that point if they sell the house, with the solar panels, especially if they're not paid off, or, does it increase the value of the home? Because at that point, the person
Great
buying
question.
that home will, benefit from having solar.
It's a great question, Ray. I mean, yeah, absolutely. So the average increase in a homeowner's value to their home is 4 to 6% when they add solar to the roof.
Okay.
Okay, to their home. Let's put it that way, because it may not be on the roof. So it is an asset, and absolutely it does. Kind of the neatest thing too is we do a basically it's a purchase program. So there's nothing out of pocket. The homeowner doesn't. Literally, it's a trade. You trade off a high energy bill for a bill. Let's say it's 1/2 of what you're spending now for energy. You lock it in there indefinitely for the rest of your life. And that's basically what's going on is you're taking a 25-year loan at a 1.49% interest rate so that you can trade a payment. In other words, you trade a $500 payment for a $250 a month payment, and you lock $250
Okay.
indefinitely. That $250 may be basically the purchase of the solar system, right? So most of the homeowners end up buying the system faster than the 25-year program. So in the next 6 to 7 years, most homeowners will own that system on their roof.
That's cool.
Once you own that system, you produce power for free.
That's
A
cool.
$250 a month goes away. So it's a great scenario. It's a great thing to do. Maryland wants to be 100% solar by the year 2040. So in Maryland, when you come on board, you now have a 30% tax credit that comes back. And what happens is the same year you put the system on your roof, when you file your taxes, you get a 30% a credit coming back. I believe it's Form 5965 that you fill out, and it goes directly to pay for the solar system. So if you do that within the first 18 months, that payment drops down and locks in indefinitely. Maryland also gives a $1,000 grant. Not all states do this, but Maryland's doing that. So 30 days after you install your system, you get $1,000 in the mail, free money.
Okay.
And then the last thing that Maryland is doing that only 4 states in the country are doing right now is what they call as SRECs, which are basically you're given a credit, a renewable energy credit for producing power on the roof. It's almost fictitious in a way, but Maryland does it. So take it, accept it, right? So you'll get the federal tax credit, the grant coming back, and then the SRECs, which can be another $5,000 to $12,000 off of the system. Otherwise, if you don't want that, then take a $12,000 check. You get solar, you cut your bill in half, and you get $12,000. Man, what about that, brother?
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Honestly, it sounds good. And you were saying Powur, like Powur. You were telling me something before we came on. It like how big it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot what term you used exactly for that, but can you give us a little bit more of a background?
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
Powur itself?
Absolutely. So Powur Energy is a platform. They're a platform just like Uber is to the taxi industry.
Okay.
EXP did to the realty market. So that's how we're slowly revolutionizing, the solar industry. But as a company, this year we are the 43rd fastest growing company in the country.
Wow.
Out of 32 million companies. We're number 43.
That's good, because I don't know if anybody, a lot of people who watch this show now, a lot of people who watch this show drink a lot. So for those of you that see this, 42 million is a lot of companies, and they're the 43rd, fastest growing company. So man, that's awesome. Like really, that really is. And Also, may I throw in that you sent us something that we are ambassadors
That's
for
right.
Powur. So if you have any, interest, if you can't get a hold of Craig or if you can't reach Powur, you see this, and we're also going to have Craig, doing, commercial on our weekly episodes. Reach out to us. We'll get you in contact with Craig. You can get yourself some solar powers, even if you want to get your doghouse some solar. We will get you hooked up, and your dog will be living the life with some solar powers on his doghouse out
I love
back.
it.
So
I love it, brother. I love it.
yeah.
No. Yeah, so that's Powur, right?
Yep.
POWUR. Pretty cool. I mean, last year we're the 61st fastest growing company. The year before we were 989.
Okay. Oh man, that's a big margin jump. That's like a huge margin jump.
huge. Yep. Company's doing fantastic. It's great. I mean, it's just going to continue to go. I think eventually what's going to happen, Ray, is you're going to walk into a neighborhood, and if someone doesn't have solar panels, you're going to say, man, what's going on? How come you don't have panels?
You're going to walk down into Baltimore City and you're going to hear the gunfire and see the people that are, taking fentanyl. You're going to be like, man, this is terrifying. Hey, look, that house has solar. But no, I mean, that's what you're saying. Like, I mean, that's
exactly
the way it's
right.
going to be, because
Yeah,
if Maryland
yeah.
goes
That's
all
right.
solar, that you're going to see it everywhere. That's just the whole thing. And now with that, and Craig, I'm gonna wrap this in a bit, but with that, do you ever think that that's a technology that you could ever use on vehicles? And have they started using anything like that on vehicles yet? Because I feel like, solar powered car, like, if it does that for electric, would it work for a vehicle as well?
So I think they are playing with some of that, Ray. I mean, so to sort of to the correlation is that the solar industry uses the same batteries that the EV market is using in their vehicles.
Okay.
Right. So Tesla, for instance, for one, they sort of, cut their teeth out there, and Tesla has, some folks may be a fan or whatnot, but they are, they're part of the market. So they were even coming out with I think for your readership, and they may be asking or thinking about, I think our buddy Elon Musk was talking about coming out with panels that look like roofing shingles.
Okay.
Right. And so, yeah. And so it's a neat concept. I think I'm not so sure it will ever come to fruition. The downside to that is you'd have to have way too many wiring and connections with a smaller.
That's a lot. I mean, but he also said he was going to buy Twitter too. So
yeah,
we see how that worked out.
Yeah, not.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, you got to be, you got to, have an imagination with this kind of stuff, because some of the stuff he did, people were probably like, oh, this dude's crazy. But, here he is, like, doing this stuff, sending Corvettes and shit out in the outer space and like all that stuff. And it's like, man, like, you just gotta sit there and put your mind, the stuff and just do it. So, but
That's
Craig,
right.
where can everybody find Powur? And if they want to reach out to you directly, where can they also find you in case they're interested in getting any kind of solar power?
So terrific. So basically what you want to do is the company's Powur, POWUR. So you can go right to my website. It's HTTPS, :// I guess we'll put this up somehow, Ray.
Yeah.
Powur.com/R Craig Blume.
Okay.
That's how you'll find me. I would be honored to help any homeowner, get a hold of this stuff and see the proposals are free. There's no obligation there. There's no money out of pocket when a homeowner comes on board with solar. It's a great story each and every time. Like I said, you're basically converting an expense into an asset. And then it shakes out from there. But man, it's coming, man. It's coming. It's coming by storm. And I think it's coming your way or our way, whether you jump on board or not.
Yeah. And for everybody, watching at home, as I said, we are ambassadors for that. We're still kind of working out, a little bit of kinks of how that ambassador stuff will work. Well, once we know, how we can relate to Craig, hey, this came through the ambassadorship stuff on the show, we'll do that. As I said, I'm good friends with Craig. I worked with Craig for 2 years, in the copier industry. So, but yeah, I mean, once we figure it out and get it rolling along, and also anybody out there I know personally who may be watching this, if you want solar, let me know. I'll get you in touch.
Yeah, that's kind of. I think that would probably work the best for your readership and your listening group out there. Contact Ray if you're interested in putting solar on your home. Contact Ray. Give him your. I need a phone number and an email address.
Okay.
And that's it. I mean, well, I do need the homeowner's address, obviously, because I need to run the report for him. I'll give them a call. We'll have that conversation. I'll run the proposal. We present via Zoom, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
A convenient time, and if it makes sense, we move forward. It's a bit of a no-brainer. It's kind of an IQ test, I guess, right? So I don't know. Spend more for the rest of your life, watch the bill continue to creep up, or flatline it, produce your own power.
Yeah.
Power outages, produce your own power. I don't know, buddy.
Yeah. So, all right, Craig, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and let you get out of here. Thank you very much for being on the HHPods fully.
My pleasure.
Hopefully, you get a little bit of clients from this, and, obviously we will be in touch.